Hello students and welcome back. So today we're going to make the older than program, and we're going to use it using if statements, but we're going to use it with nested if statements. So I'm just going to run this module here, and it'll ask me, hey, welcome to the older than program. How old are you? Okay, so I'm going to say something like, I'm 31 years old. Oh, you are older than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're also old enough to drive. You're also old enough to drink responsibly. You're also born before Jurassic Park 1 came out. Okay, you're older than dirt. Well, thank you. Thank you, program I made. You called me older than dirt. You jerk. Here. You know what? I'm just gonna run this again. I'm gonna run this again, and I'm gonna show it what's up. Okay. So this time I'm gonna say I'm only 21. There we go. I'm going to cut 10 years off of this. Oh, you are older than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're also old enough to drive. You're also old enough to drink responsibly. Yay! So, it stopped itself. Now you're probably thinking, okay, that's a bunch of if statements. Okay, we did that in the last video. Well, yes and no. See, the last video we did, we had this problem of it would just print out everything that was true. What if I want it to only stop at, say, the third one, and then don't do any of this? Well, then all of those would have had to have been false. But even if I hit execute here, see, it's still going all the way down to less than or equal to 5. It's already going down to this one right here, even though that's past my cutoff point that I wanted, my artificial cutoff point. It still printed this guy. So here we go. We're going to go into the concept of nested if statements. Because right now this is an if statement, it's a single thing. See how it only controls this one bit? This is also an if statement, it only controls one bit. Even if I click all these arrows down, they only control one bit. They're all separate. They're all individual checks. The computer is going to check all of them no matter what. I need a way to put these if statements inside themselves. So, let me just delete all that, and let's start out this program. So I'll just print out something nice and say, you know, welcome to the older than program, and let me actually capitalize T and then, and you know what? I'll give myself a new line or two. There we go. So I'm gonna now have someone insert their age. So you know what? I'll just name this, I don't know, my age. And my age is gonna be equal to, and if we're typing in an integer, we need to always put int in front of it, right? And it's an input, so we need int input. And then, you know, I don't know, something like, you know, please enter number, you know, how old are you? Or something like that. And then, you know, we'll give them a, I don't know, give them a tab or something. Give them something that makes sense. And there we go. So now we're going to have ourselves, you know, our first little if statement. And you know what? If my age is greater than 10 and colon, and now you see how we're inside of it, we can say print, you know, you are older than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, obviously, in a few years, this will not be true or a good example. So, you know, timely video. So now, if I were to type in, oops, what did I forget to do? I forgot to hit interactive mode because my thing reads input, so now it's going to say jdoodle timeout, blah, 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 blah. So let me hit interactive mode. Now let me execute this. How old are you? Okay, I am 50. And it's thinking about it. You are older than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it helps when I can spell because I use te and I capitalize the A in Marvel. So, but there we go. We've got one working if statement. So now you're thinking something, if I were to do something like, you know, this, then, you know, we'd also have ourselves a situation of, you know, oh, I could just put another if statement somewhere else and do like, you know, if, you know, my age is greater than 15, you know, you could do something like that. But you see how I've got this right here where it's not, where this if statement is not affected at all by the previous if statement. So I'm going to just put it inside of it. So now, see how it's indented in? Now when I click this drop-down menu, both if statements are gone. So I'm going to just do this, and I'll hit enter here at the end of this guy, and you see how I've indented further. So this if statement is inside this if statement, and what I type in here is going to be inside this one. So I'll just also say, I'll print, and I'll say, you know, you are also old enough to drive. Now that's going to determine by a state-by-state basis. I'm just going to be using an example where you're in a state that happens to have, you know, 16 years old as your driver's age, as you're allowed to drive a car at that age. So now, if I hit execute, so now if I say I'm 20 years old, oh, I'm older than the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm also old enough to drive. But if I instead say I'm 14, you'll notice I'm older than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then it stopped. It didn't do this one, even though it was inside of it. So we're just going to keep nesting some if statements inside of it. So if, you know, my age is greater than 20, you know, I'll also say something like, you know, print, I'll say you are also, because 21 drinking age, yeah, you are old enough to drink responsibly, because I don't want any teacher to advise getting drunk, right? So I'll execute it, and let me just do this. I will say, I'll say I'm 45, enter. And you see how it's printing out all three. But now if I were to say, oh, I'm 17, and it stops it, it doesn't go to drink responsibly. So you're probably thinking, what makes this a difference from just having if statements outside of these? Well, let's see here. What happens if I did this as a 20? Okay? So, how old are you? I'm 17. You'll notice nothing happened, because you have to realize this guy comes first. So, even though your age was higher than 15, you never ever got to this line right here, because this line is inside this question, and this question was false. So what happens if a question is false? Everything inside of it gets skipped. So the computer just skipped it, so you never even made your way to this question. So if you were to do something like that, and you have a situation where if something happens, we need to skip all these other questions because they no longer apply, you would put them inside the if statement. So you see how that's working? Like this one's inside that, but then that one's also inside this, which is also inside this. I bring it down, it's inside, it's inside, it's inside. So, how you order these are going to also be very important. So, if you're going to do something like this, you're probably going to want, if you're checking to see if something's higher, you're probably going to want to go from lower to highest. If you want to check to see if something is, you know, under something, you're probably going to want to have to go from, you know, from highest to lowest then, in that sort of situation. And now we'll see, it'll do it in the opposite order here. So if I say I'm, you know, 12, so I'm less than 20, so I was able to get there. I was less than 15, so I was able to get there. But I was not less than 10, so I wasn't able to get there. But of course, if I were to execute this again and say, oh, I'm 20, nothing happened because I never even made it past the first logic statement because I was not less than. So, I'm just going to undo all those little changes I made there. There we go. So now I'm just going to, you know, keep putting some if statements inside of it. So if my age is greater than 25, colon, and I'll also say print You know, you were also born before Jurassic Park 1 came out. And then, of course, I will do another if statement inside this. My age is greater than 30. And, you know, just to have a laugh at the teacher. Yeah, because he's older than dirt, you know. You are older than dirt. So, there we go. We can just type something in, and I don't know, I'll just say I'm 26. And as you see, it went through. It went, if my age is greater than 10, yes, I was. So let's print this guy out. And then, oh, I'm still inside my if statement. If my age is greater than 15, yes, it is. Let's print this out. Oh, I'm still inside my statement. So if this happens, do that, do that, do that, do that. So but of course I don't actually do that because that was where I was not higher than 30. So it went all the way until it got to the end. Now, here's the thing. Because it passed this first statement right here, it's honestly checking as far as it can. And then once it hits a blocking point, it's going, okay, well that blocking point, let's say it just had a blocking point right here. That would mean that's where it stops. If it found a blocking point right here, that means that's where it stops. But it's still trying to essentially calculate everything that's inside that first statement that's correct. Because an if statement is going to pick the first correct statement. And we just have it in a way that we have questions and correct statements inside a correct statement. I will explain more about this in the following video, because there's more to if than simple yes and no questions.